Hi, welcome to the Pre-Snow History Hub. So the video today is all about the Hungarian Uprising. So what actually happened in Hungary after World War II? So remember that Hungary is one of the countries that becomes one of the Eastern Bloc countries. Okay, so it's one of those Soviet satellite states. But in September 1944, during World War II, the Soviet Union actually invaded Hungary. This because they had been Germany's ally. The Soviets continued to occupy Hungary after World War II ended. The Allied Control Commission for Hungary was established to run Hungary, but out of the three allies that made up this commission, the Soviets had the most influence. Near the end of the war, a provisional, which means temporary government, was set up in Hungary. It agreed to pay the Soviet Union $300 million in reparations. And there was an election in the same year in which the Independent Smallholders Party won 57% of the vote. In the same election, the Hungarian Communist Party secured only 17% of the vote. Not happy with this, the head of the Soviet forces, Marshal Voroshilov, refused to allow the Smallholders Party to establish a government. He then formed a coalition government instead that contained members of the Hungarian Communist Party. The Hungarian Communist Party leader, Mátyás Rákosi, was a firm supporter of Stalin and was ruthless in dealing with opponents of communist rule. He became a dictator, and in the years 1949 to 56, more than 300,000 Hungarians were sent to prison and more than 2,000 were executed. Hungary became a member of Cominform and took all of its orders from Moscow. So what happened when Khrushchev comes to power in the Soviet Union? So when Khrushchev came to power in 1953, he denounced Stalin's policies in a secret speech. Khrushchev said that he wanted to break down everything that Stalin had put in place, and he called this de-Stalinization. So he said that he believed in something called peaceful coexistence, meaning he believed that the two superpowers could exist peacefully together. The Hungarian economy was controlled by the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union stopped Hungary from receiving Marshall aid, and thus it was forced to trade with the Soviet Union. This meant that Hungary rarely got a fair price for its exports. During 1956, the people of Hungary began to protest about their lack of political freedoms and problems created by fuel shortages and poor harvests. Living standards had dramatically fallen. So by October the 23rd, 1956, there were riots in the capital, Budapest, and police clashed with protesters. Khrushchev sent the Red Army into Hungary to restore order. Tanks opened fire, killing 12 people. He agreed to replace Rákosi with Imre Nagy, a former prime minister who had been thrown out of the Communist Party after clashing with Rákosi. Nagy was a communist, but he thought that within a communist regime there could be more personal freedoms. So the Red Army then withdrew tanks from Hungary. Okay, so this is a famous image of the toppling of Stalin's statue in Budapest during the Hungarian Uprising. So what was the response from Nagy then? So by the 30th of October 1956, Nagy announced a set of proposed reforms. These included Hungary leaving the Warsaw Pact and becoming a neutral country, free elections and an end to the one-party state. Nagy's proposal gave Khrushchev serious cause for concern. If Hungary were to leave the Warsaw Pact, then other Eastern European countries may well follow. This would mean that the buffer zone of communist countries that the Soviet Union wanted to keep them safe would start to crumble. Khrushchev therefore ordered another Soviet invasion of Hungary. Khrushchev did not want to be seen as weak by other members of the Warsaw Pact, and Mao Zedong of China was urging him to stand strong in the name of communism. So on the 4th of November, 6,000 tanks returned to Budapest again. The Soviet army quickly captured airports, bridges, and key roads. Despite this, the Hungarians fought on using guerrilla tactics, and there was bitter fighting, but in the end, the rebels were no match for the Soviets. Supporters of Nagy put up a fight and begged the West for support, but no support came. It is believed that up to 20,000 Hungarians were killed as the Soviet forces re-established control. A new pro-communist government was set up under János Kadar, and Nagy was hung in 1958. Okay, so during the uprising, many Hungarians actually ripped out the Soviet or communist emblem from the middle of the Hungarian flag and flew the flag as seen here. So what were the consequences of the uprising? What happened afterwards? The Soviet troops were easily able to defeat the Hungarians, but at a cost. About 7,000 Soviets died, 200,000 Hungarians fled the country, and they went to Austria and became refugees. There was very little that the West, so USA and Britain, could do to help the Hungarians apart from condemn the Soviet Union's actions and stage demonstrations in support of the Hungarians. Hungary was too far away from military intervention, and with the development of the arms race, there was a severe threat of nuclear war. The Soviet Union had maintained its empire and sent out a warning to other satellite countries thinking of breaking away. Khrushchev's rule became stronger in light of the fact that the USA refused to send troops to Hungary. They simply didn't want to risk a nuclear war over it. This meant that other members of the Warsaw Pact realised that they could not depend on US support if they were to rebel against the Soviets. Even though the USA didn't send troops to Hungary, they bitterly opposed the invasion, and relationships deteriorated further between the two superpowers. Okay, thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the Personal History Hub.